What is up, my dudes? This is Seth with the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast, coming back with you guys with week 5 underdog fantasy prop plays. I'm joined by Jordan this week. We just had a really great Thursday night game, 2 primetime games good in a row for fantasy plays, for fantasy prop plays, but also for just some good quality football. Jordan, how you feeling tonight?
Yeah, I feel good. That was actually a really good game. I was hoping for the Bucks to get the ball in overtime a little bit, but I had a really good day on some different. The props, man. I was about 2 yards short on Evans, 7 yards short on Godwin for some nice for a good day. I need the Baker yards that didn't get me there. The Bijan anytime touchdown, but I had a really good day and
Yeah, and if we kind of like basically recap our last week's plays, I think all of ours hit except for
I
maybe
went,
one of
I
yours.
went, yeah, Terry McLaurin. Otherwise,
So
we were
we
really
went
close to a
we
sweep.
went 5 for 6 on our pod prop plays. So that's really good. I hit on all 3. I paired the Patrick Mahomes free square with my 3 plays, and that ended up being really nice. But yeah, I mean 5 for 6 going in here. I feel like we kind of have a good report of what teams are doing, what players have what role, and it's kind of fun to now just exploit that. And I think Trent and I just had a big play hit tonight. So I'm excited to roll that over into this weekend.
All our leans were really good too. I felt pretty good last week. It sucks that like the two guys that I got wrong was the Terry McLaurin, which was an official play for me, and then the Marvin Harrison. But I felt like a lot of other stuff I was on was really good. So last week was really, really good. Just a really good weekend overall for me. And it's been a good start to the weekend on a Thursday night. So I'm excited to feel good about this week. I'll say like I don't love a lot this week. Last week there was a lot I liked.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of leans on stuff. This week there's just not a lot. Like there's not a lot I love. I think the stuff that I like, but there's not a lot of stuff like outside of the official plays that I really like.
Yeah, I was hoping for some better lines on some other guys. I was looking at, um, I guess I can say this one now. It's not an official play, but I do like. I also said this in our week 5 preview as one of my starts this week was Dontavian Wicks. I think he's gonna have a good game. I just don't necessarily know what it's gonna look like just yet, and I think his lines up in the 40s or mid 40s, and I was hoping it would be like in the 30s, and you definitely would have seen that on this show, but I steered away from it just to see what it looks like without Christian Watson. But that's one I like, and that's probably one I'll be using, but it's not going to be an official prop play. But yeah, like, you're right, Jordan. I was looking at a bunch of stuff like yesterday and today, and there was quite a bit of stuff I really don't like. I find it really hard for me to bet on any sort of quarterback plays, really. Like besides maybe rushing yards, like that one is like that's the most success I've found
My
is on quarterback rushing yards.
my favorite quarterback play was tonight and didn't hit. So I think I'm
Yeah.
gonna stay away from the quarterbacks. I really like the Baker over yards and Kirk Cousins over yards was the play. Seth, before we get into our this week, guys, make sure you hit the like button for us. Really helps us
Yes.
out with the YouTube algo. Hit the like button. Give us a subscribe. Would really appreciate that.
Yeah. So if we get right into it, I know I got my play first. Speaking of lines in the 30s, which I was talking about, I got Jordan Addison at 38 and a half receiving yards. Last week, Jordan Addison had a great game. I believe he had 72 yards last week, game coming back from injury. He also had a rushing touchdown. So this guy is dynamic. They're going to find ways to get him the ball. It is the London game, I believe, at it'll be 6:30 our time, Pacific time, but for you East Coast guys, it'll be 9:30. But I I really the Jets have a good defense, and the Vikings' strength is throwing the ball, and the Jets' strength is pass defense. But I also think maybe that they're going to try to take away completely Justin Jefferson. And I think that's going to open it up for Addison. And I feel like 38 and a half yards is just so low for a player so talented coming from a team that puts up points with a quarterback that can get guys the ball. So this line is way too low. It's probably a line that I'm also going to like using some alt lines with. I think I'm going to be doing that too. But yeah, that's my first play this week, Jordan Addison.
I think this play makes the most sense, Seth, when you look at like I think if you think they're gonna shut down JJ, I think that then it makes the most sense just because he's gonna get that volume. Darnold likes him. He trusts him. And if you assume they're gonna take away, I would assume Sauce tries to get on Jefferson as much as possible. So
Yeah,
it definitely presents a lot better. You would think roll bump or usage bump for Addison.
for sure. Yeah, we can get right into your play, Jordan. I know you got another receiver coming up here.
Yeah, I have a receiver in the same game. So we got two receivers in this London game that makes a nice little two pick. You can pair those up and have a nice little sweat in the early morning game, 6:30 our time. Man, it's early. But yeah, so I got Alan Lazard over 34.5 receiving yards. It's still at that number currently. So Lazard's went over this number in three, 3 or 4 games. He has 89 yards in week 1, 48 yards in week 3, 58 yards in week 4. And if you look at what the Vikings have given up, they're giving up 221 yards a game to wide receivers. So they give up the
They gave up
most
a
yards
ton
to
last
wide.
week.
Yeah, they give up the most yards to wide receivers in the league. Even before last week, they were up there too.
Yeah,
So yeah, so I really like this prop. I think it's a low number. I mean, he has 9 targets, 4 targets, 3 targets, 8 targets. He's definitely a bigger play guy. He can get this in one catch. So I like this number a lot, especially just because of how bad this Vikings defense has been to wide receivers. I think they're like a more of a bend but not break defense, is what it feels like, because they've given up a ton of yards, but only like 1 touchdown or 3 touchdowns. They're kind of a bend but not break when it comes in the pass game. I think Aaron Rodgers trusts Lazard, obviously, and so I like Lazard prop here.
Lazard has basically followed everywhere Aaron Rodgers has gone. Aaron Rodgers likes to throw him the ball. Lazard, you're right. He is like, it's very interesting because I feel like when teams want to take away Garrett Wilson, he is the next guy that is just completely zoned in on, which we kind of saw week 1. So if we think the Vikings are going to take that bend not break approach, probably going to be trying to take away Garrett Wilson, obviously their biggest weapon there, and that's going to leave plenty of room open for Lazard. Like I said, 34.5 I think was the prop. So
It's 34 and a
I
half.
yeah, super easy to get in 1 or 2 catches. Doesn't take very much volume to get there. I'm going to get into my second play. I got a running back here. I got Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry coming off his monster game last week, except I'm taking Derrick Henry out of the air. Yes, I am taking Derrick Henry receiving yards. But guys, this prop is 7.5. And I know you say it's Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry has had a great year. He had a great week. Like last week, had that 87-yard touchdown run. I'm going to be playing a hot hand here. Baltimore is committed to running the ball, and they want Derrick Henry to touch the ball as many times as they can, and that is going to mean at least 2 targets, hopefully 2 catches, and hopefully it's even just 1 catch to get there. He has gotten the over in this receiving yards every game. I think he's going to do this in 1 catch. It's going to be a designed play for him to catch it and run, and he's probably going to get 10 yards. That's what I'm hoping for, and I think it's going to be just a free prop, honestly.
Yeah, Seth, you kind of sold me on this one a little bit. When you first put this in the group when you first sent it, I didn't really like it, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, he's involved. Outside of week 1, he's definitely been involved in the pass game. And I think, like what you said, is that he's just on the field so much for them. And I think the difference between him now and Tennessee, like I'm still not saying he's some great pass catching running back, but they just design plays, I think, for the running backs more in the pass game, like because
Yeah.
of I think some of Lamar's efficiencies when it comes to throwing down the field. And then also because Lamar is such a weapon on the ground, I think the running backs get more one-on-one matchups, and they
You
just
have to play
utilize
more
them in the
man
pass game.
against Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to play more man against it, and really a lot of Henry's, like, designed these passes are like screens, whereas you'll see Justice Hill come in and run these designed routes out of the backfield, whereas Derrick Henry is maybe taking the screen for 10 yards, you know? He did catch that 1 touchdown pass last week. But yeah, I like this one a lot. We're going back to a wide receiver here with Jordan's second pick this week.
Yeah, I'm all wide receivers this week. I got Debo Samuel over 52.5 yards. For me, Honestly, this comes back to the fact that, like, I think San Francisco puts up a ton of points in this game. I think they move the ball up and down the field. I don't think Arizona's defense is really a match for them. Debo missed week 3, but in the other 2 weeks, he's gone over this number. Week 1, he barely got over this number, 54 yards, but that was against that Jets defense, who is still really good, that pass defense. And then week 2, he went 110 yards against Minnesota. And then last week against New England, in a game they were up quite a bit, and they were pretty good at running the ball, 58 yards. So I think he gets here. I like this number for him. It's now at 53.5 currently. I think that's good all the way up to maybe that 55.5 number, 54.5, 55.5. So yeah, I do like this prop quite a bit. Mostly just because I want to attack this Cardinals defense. I think the Mason numbers is a little too high. So I kind of want to attack it with the Debo number. And it's a number that he can get. He's got it all 3 games he's played in this year. So
100%. The Cardinals defense is something we can absolutely target. What's interesting is I think Debo's total yards is a little bit more. And I think they're receiving a little bit more here, I think, than Debo's total yards. Just because I think
yeah,
it's
I
going to be
don't
easier
like.
for him to get.
I think the rushing yards for Debo get a little inflated at times. Like, I
Well,
don't
because I think I
always
saw it
think.
was at 19 or something, and that's a lot.
And then his rush receiving yard prop just seems a little
It's
outlandish to
70
me.
something, I believe. Yeah. And I
Yeah,
feel like I feel like
because
this
I
week,
think
if they
that
get up big on the Cardinals, he might not run the ball.
it feels
Maybe
like it's
once.
being inflated by the 1 week where he had like 8 carries, but that was week
Yeah,
1 when CMC like got ruled out and Jordan Mason, it was his first game. Like, it just feels like it's being inflated by that 1 week.
for sure. Yeah. And what's funny is I did take week 1. As soon as I saw McCaffrey was out, I took Debo's rushing yards, and I actually hit the over on that one. So that one was cool. Let's see here. Getting to my third pick here. I'm going back to receiver. Right in the hot hand here. Jaden Reed had a awesome game last week. In what it looked to be in a blowout loss to the Vikings, but Jordan Love and Reed came back. Reed exploded for a huge game, and Christian Watson's out. So I think that's just going to be a little bit more work for Jaden Reed. Maybe it'll be split between Dubs and Wicks, but Jaden Reed is obviously getting the volume. He's the number one here. It's clear cut. And 60.5 yards is just something too low for the number one wide receiver on a team that can efficiently pass the ball to their receivers. The Rams, they just give up points. I don't think their defense is that good, and I think Reed's going to exploit it. Jordan Love, I think, is going to have a great game. I really think Reed can get to this number in a half.
One of the few other quarterback props I liked was the Love over his passing yards, and so that correlates pretty good with Jaden Reed. So yeah, I like Jaden Reed a lot this week. I like that Green Bay passing game. I think Jaden Reed is the safest one there. Like, the Rams are a really good matchup for wide receivers. Good amount of yards on the through the air, a bunch of touchdowns through the air. So definitely this is definitely a very beatable Rams secondary.
Oh, for sure. Yep. I think you write it here. I'm pretty confident in these plays this week, and there wasn't a lot I liked. And this last one that you have, Jordan, really fires me up. Let's hear this one.
Yeah, so I got the DK over 65.5 receiving yards. I think it's actually now 63.5, which doesn't make me feel great when the prop goes the other way. They're playing the Giants. Last week, CD had a big game against the Giants. He busted off a long touchdown catch. DK is perfectly capable of doing that. In his games this year, he's gone over that prop the last 3 weeks. Outside of week 1 against a Denver defense who now we realize is really, really good against wide receivers, 129 yards, 104 yards, 104 yards the last 3 weeks. So he is being used very effectively, but in this new offense, I think they're playing to his strengths. They're getting the ball on the intermediate routes, the deep routes. They're finding ways to get in the ball. And he looks good, and Gino's looking for him. And so I like this. I like this number a lot. I think it's a little bit too low. And this Giants defense, I think, is very, very beatable. Very beatable. Last week, CeeDee Lamb went off against him. But even the week before, like, it's not like they've played a ton of like really good offensive weapons, like they had that game with the Commanders where there just was a bunch of field goals. Commanders moved the ball. The Browns, Amari Cooper had a really good game, 7 for 86. Even in that Commanders game, yeah, no really receivers went off in that Commanders game. And then the Vikings week 1, like Justin Jefferson 4 for 59. Jordan Addison had a decent game. So like, I guess my point is that they're using DK a lot. He's gone over this number in the last 3 weeks, flew over this number the last 3 weeks.
Yeah,
I think
well
this is a
over.
very attackable, like, Giants secondary, Giants defense, and I think just the way they're playing, this number seems too low. I think this number should be up in the 70s, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree here. I think maybe what they're thinking is that the Seahawks are just going to dominate on the ground with Kenneth Walker is maybe what the fear is, or the Seahawks will get up early and run the ball. But I think part of them getting up early is DK Metcalf absolutely lighting up this defense. I think
I mean,
he easily gets over this number here. It's
what I like
it's
about
one of
it,
my favorite
Seth,
plays you have.
is like his targets are like 14, 6, and 12. Like he has 14 and 12 target games. Like
Yeah.
I feel like DK wasn't getting that type of usage in the last couple of years. Like you were kind of
No, he
relying on like
wasn't.
the long bomb. Like, but he's showing that he can do it in different ways this year, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, well, it just speaks a testament to the Seahawks getting a completely new coaching staff. But yeah, I really like this one because it's my favorite team and it's a player I really enjoy watching. So yeah, that's a good prop. Jordan, you want to give out our
Well,
official pod
let
play,
me just I have a few
let's
leans
let's
that
get some other guys we like
I
first.
have a few leads and a couple other guys I want to mention. You tell me what you think of these. Nico Collins over 78.5 receiving yards. I think you just kind of keep attacking that prop against this Buffalo
Yeah.
secondary. I think that they're more beatable like than what the Ravens showed last week. This
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo secondary. I think it's like, and I don't trust the Texans to really run the football. They want to throw. I think Nico's
No.
just a stud, right? So there's that one. I think the Chase over 74.5 receiving yards against his Baltimore secondary. I think it's the easier place to attack. And if you think that Bengals are playing from behind, I don't mind that one. Again, I don't love
Yeah.
these, but they're more the ones that I think I would lean on the over. I mentioned the Love one. And then the two guys that we don't have lines for yet that I really want to attack. Like these, I think I'm going to love these props is the Wan'Dale Robinson props and the Josh Downs props. So
Yeah.
Wan'Dale Robinson, if Neighbors gets ruled out, which I think that's what's going to happen, I'm very curious what his reception prop comes out. If it's 4.5, I'm going to hit that line hard.
There's
I
no way
think
it's gonna be 4.5, but that would
I
be
think it's
awesome.
probably going to be 5.5. But like this is something that I think I want to like hit the alt lines, maybe ladder it up to like 6.5. And then the other one I like is Josh Downs if Joe Flacco is
If
playing
Joe
quarterback. If
Flacco's a
Anthony
quarterback,
Richardson
yeah.
is in, don't want any part of it. But if Joe Flacco's playing quarterback, I definitely want the Josh Downs reception props and maybe even the Michael Pittman receiving props too, because this Jaguars secondary, as we know, is very, very, very attackable. Maybe the attack, like the spot you want to attack. Like if they're
Yeah,
playing any other team, I think we'd be having their receiver props against the Jaguars.
for sure. Yeah, and it's unfortunate we don't know who the quarterback is. Really, if we'd be fortunate if it was Joe Flacco because we would have had a play from those
Yeah.
games
So
in here.
I think we both agree that if the Wan'Dale reception line probably is going to be a really good play from us, and then the
Yeah,
Josh Downs reception line, if Anthony Richardson is ruled out, is definitely something we like as well.
for sure. Yeah, so keep that in mind, guys. If you once you see those lines come out, if you want to refer back to this video, or hopefully you just memorize it, and you can just say, "Hey, man, they said anything between 4.5, 5.5, six, even 6.5 for Wandale's great. The Josh Downs lines look good with Joe Flacco at the helm. Stay away with Anthony Richardson." But Jordan, you want to give away our official pod play? So we have our
Yeah.
3 plays each, and then we have 6 plays in total. But we're gonna give our favorite 3 for an official
Yeah.
play.
So our favorite three, our podcast play is going to be the Jaden Reed over 63.5 receiving yards, Jordan Addison over 38.5 receiving yards, and then the Deebo Samuel over 53.5 receiving yards. That will be our three pick pod play.
Yep.
over
So
on
we'll do
Underdog.
probably full unit on that one.
Yep, full
Um,
unit.
Yeah, I mean, let's week 4 was great. I feel like Jordan, we're starting to get on a roll here. It's been I'm really enjoying it now. The first 2 weeks, I will say, were a little rough to get into, just to learn, I feel like, what was going on.
Yeah, it was definitely not a first. Honestly, I'll say good 3 weeks for me, the first 3 weeks, but definitely had a really good weekend last weekend. Let's roll that into a good weekend this weekend, and then just keep going from there, Seth.
Yeah, I know. I'm really enjoying doing this. Surprisingly and thankfully for Trent, we're getting pretty efficient. But yeah, it's been fun. Thanks for joining us, guys. If you want to play with us on Underdog, you can use our promo code Dudes, and they'll match you up to, is it $100 or is it more now?
$1,000.
It's $1,000. So that's big boy money. If you guys want to, be big boys and bet responsibly and put 1,000 in, use our code. Underdog will match you with 1,000 of their own money. So that's big time. Use promo code Dudes. Thanks for joining us, guys. See you next week.
This has been another episode of the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. Remember to rate, review, and follow. For more information, go to www.thefantasyfootballdudes.com. And remember, we are sorry for absolutely nothing.